This is Retirement Keys with Anthony Congemi from Crescent City Retirement Group. When a part of your financial strategy is out of tune, your long-term goals, your retirement savings, and your legacy can all suffer. With many years of experience in the financial industry, Anthony provides his clients and prospects with the information they need regarding Social Security, retirement income planning, wealth management, and much more. Listen in as we address your financial concerns and provide helpful solutions to put you on the path to achieving your retirement goals. And now, here is Retirement Keys with your host, Anthony Congemi.
Hello and welcome back to Retirement Keys. My name's Anthony Congemi with Crescent City Retirement Group, and we're so pleased to have you join us here today. We just try to come to you every Sunday with current events and current topics as it relates to retirement planning. As you know, our platform is retirement planning. We spend a lot of time in our firm, a lot to keep up with, especially as it relates to taxes. I mean, we've had over the last 3 years, there have been more tax legislation passed than in the last 25 years combined. So, a lot going on in that regard. But anyway, we are so happy to have you with us today. We've got our awesome co-host with us, Tony Shore. So Tony will be with us today as he is every Sunday. Tony, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, no problem, Anthony. And I'm really excited about today's show and excited to be here with you because we're going to be talking about financial independence. But that's crazy how many tax changes there have been recently. So many more things change more and more as we go, it seems. And that's why you need a financial services professional like yourself, Anthony. That's why our listeners need somebody in their court who stays on top of all this. And I think that's great. And I've been really good. I'm excited about our topic today. Tell us a little bit more about what we're talking about.
First of all, Tony, one of my favorite holidays is the 4th of July. It just sparks memories for me. And I imagine a sunny day with neighbors in the yard and driveways and grilling burgers and hot dogs. And so anyway, I just really love this holiday. But most importantly, Tony, it's time for all of us to really take a few minutes to reflect on what a privilege it is to live in a free country. As my mind wanders recently to thoughts about our upcoming Independence Day, I was also struck by the idea that a show about financial independence would be fun and a timely way to tie one of really my favorite holidays into finances. So working toward achieving financial independence is today's topic, Tony.
Yeah, and it's a good one. And, my dog doesn't enjoy the fireworks this time of year. I love them. And as for financial independence, I think that's a great topic and something we should all work towards. And I'm excited to get rolling with it.
Absolutely, Tony. So let's get to it. A recent U.S. News and World Report article titled 12 Steps to Achieving Financial Freedom has some insights that I think would be very helpful, Tony. We should begin by noting that financial independence means different things to different people. For some folks, financial independence might mean being able to pay their bills on time each month while also socking a little money away into their savings or retirement accounts. For others, financial independence may mean retiring when they want to and heading off on the adventures they long dreamed about. And as for the article, its first piece of advice is to live within your means, which is certainly something I discuss with many of our clients. It can be easy to get caught up in the latest trends when it comes to things like houses and cars and clothes. If everyone in your orbit is buying a 6-bedroom house, it's only natural to think, well, maybe I should too. But if a 3-bedroom bungalow will make you happy and just as importantly will make your budget happy, why not go that route? So, Tony, when we spend a lot of time, of course, in retirement income planning, we talk about lifestyle. We talk about, what retirement should look like. again, everybody's situation obviously is different, and everybody's aspirations are different as it relates to retirement. But we want to get a good, accurate number. What do we need in retirement to really not just pay our bills, but to live the lifestyle we want to live in retirement? And that's such an important number to start with, Tony.
Yeah, well, it is. And our financial philosophies are influenced by so many different outside factors, Anthony. I think it's fair to say that our friends and family, advertising, pop culture, social media, it all affects how we make financial decisions. But staying within your means and not getting overextended financially, that's going to pay off in the future. And I think that's great advice you're giving us today.
That's right. Tony, I've always advised that people think about the word enough when it comes to their financial decisions. As in, my current 4-bedroom home is enough, and current car with 75,000 miles is enough. Reminding yourself that what you have is enough is a good way to avoid blowing up your budget and chasing what you really don't need. Making sure you always know your current financial status is always a key component of achieving financial independence. Whether you're just a handful of years away into your career, away from retirement, it's really critical to understand this concept. On a regular basis, you should open a spreadsheet or sit down with a pencil and write out all of your income against all of your debt. Is there a gap between your income and your debt? A little too close for comfort? Regularly analyzing your finances will allow you to adjust and quickly address any red flags. So it's just important, Tony, to look at your inflows and your outflows. And the other thing is, when you get closer to retirement, there may be some things that we want to structure to pay off if there is some debt going into retirement. So debt reduction strategies and being tax efficient with those debt reduction strategies is also a fabulous technique, Tony, to really putting ourselves in a position where we can just retire and enjoy our retirement, have enough income coming in, again, in a very tax efficient way. And I really can't stress that enough, Tony. But we want to know what we're going to need in retirement, what type of lifestyle we want to live in retirement, and make sure that we have a plan in place that's going to accomplish that for us.
Yeah, exactly. And look for those red flags and work with a financial services professional if you aren't doing so already. And even if you are, get that second opinion. I know you're more than happy to hear from our listeners out there. And a financial services professional like yourself, you have the experience that people need to make sure their income and debt are properly balanced and they're able to fill that income gap in retirement.
Absolutely, Tony. It's an excellent point. Opening up the right types of accounts is the next key way you may be able to work towards financial independence. In some cases, there may not be one account that's a good fit for all of your money. Most people will likely need a mix of accounts. For retirement money, many people utilize tax-favored 401ks and IRAs. And if an employer offers a match, utilizing that tool becomes all the more important. If you have a health insurance plan with a high deductible, it may be smart to move to open a health savings account to help you cover some of your potential medical expenses. So, Tony, there's different types of retirement accounts. There's these health savings accounts, your 401k, traditional IRAs. Of course, there's Roth IRAs and the like. So really having those appropriate accounts set up. You may be a small business. You may be setting up some retirement planning for that business. So it's really important, Tony, to have the right plans in place to really maximize the results, minimize the taxes, so you can build that plan and have that retirement that you really deserve.
Yeah, I think that's really important as well, Anthony. And let's not forget emergency funds, which is something you've touted on previous shows. Finding a savings account may be a solid way to build that emergency fund. When the AC goes out in the middle of a hot day, you're going to want the peace of mind that comes with knowing you have the cash for a new one. Now, this has been a great show so far, but we should probably take a quick break here. Anthony, is there anything else you want to add before we do?
Well, I just want to thank you for tuning in and listening. We really love coming to you each week. And I want to just encourage you, if you don't have a formal retirement plan, as you know, if you've been a listener for any length of time on our show, you know that we think there's really 5 key areas, key pillars to any sound retirement plan. And that would be estate and legacy planning, healthcare planning, investment strategy, income planning, and taxes. And I would just encourage you, if you don't have a full holistic plan, or if you'd like to get a second opinion on your retirement plan, please take advantage of this offer.
You've been listening to our shows and advice on getting your finances in order and creating a retirement income plan that will last. Now is the time to take advantage of our special offer. This is Anthony Kangemi of Crescent City Retirement Group, and we're now offering a complimentary gourmet dinner and retirement planning workshop, The 5 Keys to a Stress-Free Retirement. This is one workshop you won't want to miss. Call in the next 20 minutes for this no-cost offer. Seating is limited. Call Crescent City Retirement Group within the next 20 minutes at 504-828-2171. That number again is 504-828-2171.
And welcome back to Retirement Keys. I'm your co-host, Tony Shore, and I'm here with our host, the man with the plan, Anthony Kangemi. And a great show today so far, Anthony. We've been talking about some of the strategies that you can use to achieve lasting financial independence. And we all want to be able to be financially independent, especially once we hit retirement. And, that can make our future light up just like fireworks light up the night sky on Independence Day. So this has been a fun and timely show. How do you want to get this segment started?
Well, Tony, the U.S. News and World Report article, the article we mentioned earlier in the last segment, titled The 12 Steps to Achieve Financial Freedom, really next emphasizes the wisdom of crafting a deposit strategy. Once your various accounts are active, you may want to prioritize making sure you're fully funding them. A lot of employers will do direct deposits from your paycheck into multiple accounts, which allows you to earmark percentages of your check into all accounts, automating payments into your debt, savings, and retirement accounts is an effective and reliable way to make sure your financial strategy is humming right along. So it's kind of like set it, Tony, and structure it and set it. And then you can not really forget it, but you can certainly set it. And then when you're reviewing on a quarterly or semi-annual and annual basis, these small deposits along the way, Tony, when you look back, really amount to, you look back and say, wow, I'm moving along here pretty nicely. So having the right accounts in place and then setting a structure to make those deposits along the way, Tony, is very, very important.
Well, yeah, and obviously it's important to do that, and I think that's great. And automated payments are really important for your savings and retirement accounts because it allows you to get used to budgeting and living off the money that ends up in your checking account after that's already removed. So it's like money you never had, so you don't miss it. And I think that's really important as well.
Absolutely. It is. The next step to working towards achieving financial independence, Tony, is monitoring your credit like a hawk. Or perhaps a bald eagle is more appropriate for today's show. Your credit score helps determine whether you get approved for a loan and what the interest rate on that loan will be. If you're applying for a job, your potential employer may even check your credit history before making a final decision. And insurance companies in certain regions may even use your credit history to determine your policy's premiums. Reducing your debt and paying bills on time are 2 simple but important ways to boost your credit score. Finally, at a time when identity theft and data breaches seem to be a regular occurrence, it's important to monitor your credit to be certain someone isn't going on or spending spree in your name. You know, Tony, in today's world now, with everything being just, technology based, I mean, everything we do, unfortunately, is online. And so having all of those encryptions and all of this cybersecurity, which incidentally, we do a whole show on cybersecurity, and I would urge you to tune into one of our podcasts that we've done in the past. But nevertheless, keeping up with your credit score and making sure that nobody has accessed your credit is something that you want to do regularly.
Yeah. I would imagine, and websites like Credit Sesame or Credit Karma, there are ways that you can monitor your credit. But now a lot of banks and credit unions also offer credit monitoring. And I am a member of a credit union, and that's what I use for my checking and savings. And they offer credit monitoring as part of their customer service package. So that's really handy.
It is. It really is. And it's very important to keep up with that. And like you say, there's services that'll do it for you.
Yep.
So, Tony, we've mentioned budgets a fair amount during this episode, but let's circle back to one more time so we can highlight the importance of really cutting back on spending. I'm the first to admit that it's become a cliche to say, stop buying your morning latte when it comes to advice about spending less money. But let's be honest, in the grand scheme of things, treating yourself to a good cup of coffee a few times a week is unlikely to torpedo your budget. Even during comprehensive financial strategizing, we have to recognize that doing things we enjoy is one of the elements of a happy life. So let's forget the coffee, the movie tickets, and the gym membership, and focus on the biggies. Buying a house that still suits your needs, even though it's smaller than others you've been eyeing, or purchasing a low-mileage used car rather than the brand-new model may seem like sacrifices, especially if you're doing well in your career. However, if those choices let you achieve true financial independence years ahead of schedule, I'm confident you'll think it was all worth it. So, and I agree, Tony, that, we have to live our lives. We have to enjoy our lives. Yes, we have to have a reliable car to get us to and fro. We have to have a nice home, and to accommodate our families. But, let's face it, we can overdo it.
Yeah, true.
We all have that tendency. And so just being mindful. Not to say, hey, we're never going to go out and have a nice meal, or we're not going to have nice furniture, or we're not going to have a nice automobile to drive or take nice vacations. Certainly we want to do all those things, but let's at least be mindful of what we're spending and what we're doing. And just making some of those choices along the way that may not be, we could have gone more elaborate, but then we said, you know what, we're going to back down a little bit. We're going to do this. This is fine. This is adequate. This is nice. And we're not going to overdo it. Can really go a long way, Tony, as it relates to building up our retirement.
Yeah, it really can. And I think, if you buy that low mileage used car rather than the latest model, you're going to have more money in your pocket to enjoy your retirement or enjoy Starbucks, or you just have to prioritize. Maybe you want the really nice new car and you're going to save in other ways. So that's a good perspective, isn't it?
It really is a great perspective, Tony. Our next tip for working towards achieving financial independence, designing our debt payoff strategy we talked about a little while ago, is something I bring up often with our clients. Now, for most Americans, debt is a part of life. There's student loans and mortgages and car payments and credit cards. And so having a debt doesn't mean your financial plan is littered with mistakes and bad choices. But the sooner you can get the weight of debt off your shoulders, the sooner you'll be in position to really achieve that financial independence. As you build your strategy to pay off debt, focus your extra money on one debt while making the minimum payments on the other debt. With this strategy, Your best play may be to first focus on the debt source with the highest interest rate. Once you've knocked out the first debt source, don't direct what you're saving on expenses into debt account. Instead, take the money and apply it to your next largest debt source. And then as you go, Tony, looking at the debt and looking at the interest you're paying on that debt, knocking out, let's just call it the bad debt first, if you will, and you knock that out one at a time. And, before you know it, Tony, you look back and you say, wow, I'm debt free. And what a wonderful place to be. And then you can really just, live that retirement lifestyle. And I will say too, Tony, especially when people are getting closer to retirement, let's say 5 to 10 years out before retirement, really honing in on that debt strategy and looking at that debt reduction strategy, really, it's just critical, Tony.
Well, yeah, it is. And I mean, that debt payoff strategy you mentioned sounds great to me. And regular listeners of our program know that we like to talk about having an emergency fund because I know you believe in them strongly, and I do as well. I can't even begin to count the number of times an emergency fund, I wish I had one earlier in my life, and how, now that I'm married and have kids, it's really saved us when we needed new tires or that last minute, auto repair or an appliance breaks down. So that's really important. Now, what role does an emergency fund play in helping someone working toward achieving financial independence?
Sure. So an emergency fund plays a big role. When you have an emergency fund, you don't have to drain your savings to cover the unexpected expenses that are a natural part of life. Additionally, an adequate emergency fund also means you don't have to put those financial surprises on a credit card. A good rule of thumb is to have 3 to 6 months of living expenses in your emergency fund. Make sure you replenish what you take out of your emergency fund as quickly as possible. And if you hit that magic 6-month figure, keep going. The bigger your emergency fund, the better. We should all have an emergency fund. Even in retirement, Tony, we earmark this liquidity fund or this emergency fund as part of a retirement strategy. We all need that fund on the side. And frankly, we're running retirement plans to age 100. So you figure if somebody retires, let's just say at 65, that's a 35-year plan to run to age 100. And that emergency fund in the retirement plan is always accounted for. It's always needs to remain liquid. And if we use that emergency fund in our retirement, which we'll use over the course of retirement, we'll use some of that emergency fund. And as we just mentioned, we're going to want to replace that. And we have accounts, Tony, in our retirement planning that are going to be the accounts that are going to help replace that emergency money when we use it throughout retirement. So even though we need an emergency fund while we're working, we need the same emergency fund and the same strategy in retirement as well.
Now, we're almost out of time for today's show, Anthony. Is there anything else you want to add for our listeners before we have to go today?
Well, I just want to thank you again for tuning in. Financial freedom, just being free. And there's so many, I guess, definitions of freedom. There's, of course, financial freedom. But then there's, just being free in general, just being free to be able to do, what you want to do, support the causes, the friends, the family, the things that are important to you, being financially free and being free in general to be able to do what you want to do in retirement. And really, we talk a lot about, you hear us talk about, we wrote a book on the 5 keys to a stress-free retirement. And that's not really just words. When we think about a stress-free retirement or financial freedom, we really spend the time on the 5 key areas that we think are just critical to be able to enjoy that financial freedom or enjoy that free retirement. And so we've mentioned it many times, but it's really 5 key areas in estate planning, healthcare, investments, income, and taxes. And I would just encourage you to get a second opinion. Allow us to put the plan together for you. Absolutely complimentary for being a radio listener. You just have to call in and say, yes, I heard Anthony and Tony on the show. Yes, I'd like to get my second opinion. Take advantage of our special offer, and we're going to provide it for you. It's going to give you a second opinion. It's going to give you some ideas about areas that you may be able to improve on. And at the very least, it'll confirm that everything that you're doing lines up. So take advantage of that offer, please.
All right. And before we go, what is that phone number our listeners can call, Anthony?
It's 504-828-2171. Again, area code 504-828-2171, or just simply go to crescentcityretirement.com. You can schedule a phone appointment right there online.
All right, sounds great. And listeners, that does it for today's episode of Retirement Keys with Anthony Congemi. Thank you for listening to Retirement Keys. Don't pay too much for taxes or retire without a sound income plan. For more information, please contact Anthony Congemi at Crescent City Retirement Group. Call 504-828-2171 or visit the website at crescentcityretirement.com. All matters discussed during this show are for informational purposes only. Each individual situation may vary, and the opinions expressed here may not apply to everyone. Materials presented are believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations can be made as to its accuracy. All ideas and information should be discussed in detail with one of our qualified representatives prior to implementation. Anthony Congemi and Crescent City Retirement Group are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency.